Over the last few weeks, we talked about awareness, we talked about response, and we talked about operational structure. But let me ask you a serious question. If something unusual happened inside your firm tomorrow, would leadership know immediately, or would the problem reveal itself later after the damage had already begun? Because most personal injury firms don't lose control of the situation because their people are careless. They lose control because they cannot see what is happening inside their own operational environment. They rely on assumption. They assume someone will notice, they assume someone will report it, and they assume someone will act. But serious firms don't operate on assumption. They operate on control. Hi, I'm Castro. Over the past 3 weeks, we've talked about 6 standards that protect a personal injury firm. Threat awareness, red flag instinct, immediate response, written authority, case flow protection, and chain of command. Those standards create leadership and structure. But leadership and structure still rely on people. And people cannot protect what they cannot see, which brings us to the final standard, control. Control means leadership has visibility. Control means safeguards exist. Control means the firm can detect unusual activity early, long before something goes wrong. Protected firms build 3 control mechanisms: reputation safeguards, firm-wide accountability, and total visibility. Let me explain why these 3 mechanisms matter. A personal injury firm once discovered something troubling. A document containing sensitive client information had been shared outside the firm. Not maliciously, not even intentionally, simply mishandled. Someone had forwarded information without realizing the consequences. Fortunately, nothing catastrophic happened, but the firm suddenly realized something uncomfortable. Client confidentiality had depended entirely on human behavior, and human behavior is not perfect. Protected firms build reputation safeguards that prevent sensitive information from leaving the firm without proper protection. Because reputation in personal injury law is fragile. It takes decades to build, but it can be damaged very quickly. Here's another story. A partner told me one time, he told me something very interesting. He said that we have procedures for everything. And many firms believe that. They believe policies exist, procedures are followed, and everyone operates within the same standard. But inside this firm, something unusual began happening. Different teams were following different processes. Some staff followed procedures carefully, while others followed habits. Over time, those small inconsistencies created operational exposure. Deadlines became tighter, case flow became uneven, and partners spent more time resolving internal issues. But the firm realized something important. Procedures alone are not enough. Protected firms build firm-wide accountability. Because when operational standards are visible and enforced, everyone moves in the same direction. Now let me tell you a final story. A managing partner once said something that stuck with me. He said, "I don't worry about the problems I can see. I worry about the problems I can't see." Because unseen problems are the ones that surprise firms. Unusual access, unexpected behavior, silent disruptions, situations that develop slowly until suddenly they become serious. Protected firms build total visibility, where leadership can see operational risks early. They can detect unusual behavior and they can respond before small problems grow. Because visibility changes everything. When leadership can see what is happening inside the firm, then and only then control returns. It's like having the ability to see around the corner without a mirror. Now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Over the past 4 weeks, we've talked about 9 operational standards that protect personal injury firms. Under leadership standard, threat awareness, red flag instinct, and immediate response. Under structure standard, written authority, case flow protection, and chain of command. And finally, under control standard, reputation safeguard, firm-wide accountability, and total visibility. When these 3 pillars work together, leadership, structure, and control, a firm becomes extremely resilient. Exposure becomes visible, response becomes immediate, and reputation becomes protected. This entire framework is called Freedom Digital Protection Plan. It's how serious personal injury firms eliminate silent exposure before it becomes public damage. And the reality is, most firms never intentionally build these standards. They assume that they exist until something unusual happens, and by then, it may already be too late. which is why I created something specifically for personal injury law firms. It's a short evaluation that reveals whether these standards currently exist inside your firm. It's called the Confidential Exposure Status Assessment. In just a few minutes, it will show you whether your firm currently operates under the green zone, the yellow zone, or if you're operating in the red zone when it comes to operational exposure. No technical language, no complicated analysis, just clarity. Because serious firms don't operate on assumptions, they operate on visibility. So if you're curious where your firm stands, take the Confidential Exposure Status Assessment and see whether your firm recognizes exposure early or discovers it after the damage is done.